Orange pill, orange pill, orange pill.
So welcome to Orange Pill, and I am Stacy Herbert here with Max Kaiser over there monitoring your social media accounts. Everybody from Orange Pill Podcast Telegram group is here.
Yeah, that's great.
What up, YouTube? What up, YouTube? You know, I'm copying this new trend, and, you know, I think, you know, you imitate the greats, right? And the greats right now on YouTube are this two twin brothers called Twins the New Trend. And I figured, you know, Max and I are always twinning, so we're going to copy a little bit of them. And they always do these reaction videos to like Phil Collins. They went viral with that. But they just sit there, look at the camera, and basically watch on their computer screen some rock and roll, some Nina Simone, some Marvin Gaye that they've never heard in their lives. They're only like 19 years old. So they say that they've only listened to rap up until now. So they've listened to Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, and they get the reaction shot.
Yeah, the Phil Collins one was a classic. You know, they did the same thing everyone else does. Da-da, 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 bump, bump. It just flips you out.
Yeah, they flipped out and it went viral. Millions and millions of views. I've noticed lately that they've got some new chairs and it looks like a new room. I think they might have moved to a better apartment or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're living large in Beverly Hills now. You know, that's the thing about being a YouTube superstar. It brings in the cash money.
Right. So I am thinking, you know, we could do the same. So Max and I could watch a few videos. We're going to, you know, we have an interview coming up with Alakanani. So we're going to watch her. We're engaging live, right? But we're going to watch a few videos. First, I want to look at this video of Jerry Nadler. So this is a good one because we're talking about corrupt politicians and corruption around the world and this sort of the disintegration of the U.S. empire and U.S. debt, but also disintegration of the world as we know it. It's not just the U.S., it's all around the world. The whole fiat world is disintegrating as kind of a rot sets in. It's had this high time preference. Nobody figured that we'd even, nobody ever planned for 40 years or 49 years from 1971. And this is what we have. So let's look at this video of Jerry Nadler. And he's with Nancy Pelosi, also another person in power for several decades since basically we went off the gold standard.
Work on this subject, not part of this
Okay.
package,
Okay.
part of
The twin brothers always say okay.
Yeah, no, I get it. But, you know, that guy's obviously dumped a load into his adult diapers. And I think that's what people are commenting about. And you can see it in his movements on stage. And this is similar to what's happened to Joe Biden. I mean, can't we find people who can control their bowels and who are not pre-senile or senile? I mean, why?
Well, I think those two twins would be better at running the world than, you know, people pooping in their diapers. Right. I mean, everybody ends up pooping in their diapers first, you know, for the first few years of your life and the last few years of your life. You end up pooping in a diaper. But, you know, do we really need somebody running the country like that?
No, we don't. And it's not that I'm biased against poopers, and or I have any kind of you know, prejudice against poopers. But I don't think it's necessary for the Jerry Nadlers of the world, who has a pretty, you know, he sits around and he criticizes everybody while he's pooping his pants. You know, let's get control of your sphincter first, and then you can go criticize people.
And then I guess we'll watch this little clip of Nancy Pelosi on the mainstream cable news here in America.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
I think it's just one too
Good
many
morning.
facelifts.
Sunday morning.
Right, she has a lot of facelifts,
The,
and that's clear in
that
the
we have
kind
a
of
responsibility.
Lucille
We
Ball,
take an oath to
you know,
protect and
Johnny
defend the
Halliday,
Constitution of the United
you know,
States.
name 100
We have
other
a
celebrities who
responsibility
have that
to meet the
skin
needs
pushed back
of the
or pulled
American
back
people.
so extreme that
The day
it just
that we
contorts
learn
their
what
face.
we
She's
state
definitely
against
got that
But to be
look
clear, you're
about her.
not taking
And then
any
she has that
arrows out of this,
unhinged,
you're
crazy
not
person
ruling
stare
anything out.
that she kind of like loses her place quite often in mid-sentence, which is disturbing.
The,
Yeah.
we have
Well,
a
the whole
responsibility.
Sunday
We
brunch,
take
Sunday
an oath to
what?
protect and defend the
Like she got
Constitution
totally
of
lost.
the-
Again, she's been in power for decades. She's also, like most members of Congress, like a multi-millionaire. And there's just a sense of rot setting in. And, you know, it's rotten at the core of empire. And of course, it's going to be rotten at the edge of empire. And, you know, with this, like, I think our biggest hit will be watching Watching
the detectives.
yeah. Anyway, you know what? We'll be watching Fed speak and interpreting Fed speak. So if you could find, you know, just like the twins, they get sent ideas from other people in the audience who know about great songs. You know, watch this, you know, Nirvana song, Smells Like Teen Spirit. They watched that one. So, you
Smells like Jerry Nadler's pants.
yeah.
That's a new Nirvana song.
Yeah. So let's send us your clips of bankers or central bankers or, you know, treasury secretaries, chancellors, things like that. Send us those and we'll watch that. But before I came up with an idea. I understood this whole Fed speak and the problem with a lot of the headlines and data coming out around the world as this disintegration happens. Because, you know, in Finland, there's this notion that the Finns don't like speaking to each other, don't like touching, don't like getting too socially distant. And then I saw this thing that you're not going to believe, like that basically in Finnish, to certainly an American ear, to say, I'll meet you, is almost exactly the same as I'll kill you. Listen to this. I'll show you the Google translation of the actual text of what it means.
Minä tapaan sinut. Minä tapan sinut.
There's a certain little extra. If you listen a few times, you'll hear that, you know, I'll meet you is a little bit more of a, aw, you know, but I can see where over the years you would want to keep your distance if people are like, I'll meet you for lunch. And you'll hear, I'll kill you for lunch.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the reason they are naturally socially distant is because of this linguistic juxtaposition of these two phrases. One means I'll meet you, the other one means I'll kill you, and that's never been resolved over 500 years.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what else? That it could offer an explanation for why they are so distant from each other. It's like, you know, if you're hearing I'll kill you for lunch, you don't want to go, you turn down the invitation. Right.
It's like, you know, I'm busy for lunch, maybe next time. And, that makes perfect sense then. So it's a linguistic problem hard-coded into, you know, the neurons of the Finnish people.
Yeah. So the Fed looks at some data and, you know, let's do a reaction shot to listening to Jerome Powell this week. Okay.
Even so,
okay.
overall
Here he is.
activity remains well below its level before the pandemic, and the path ahead remains highly uncertain.
Okay, what's he saying? More money.
In the labor market,
much more
roughly
money.
half of the 22 million
more
jobs
money.
that were lost in March
More
and
money.
April
More money
have
from
been
Jay.
regained as many people return
More
to
money.
work. The economic downturn
Oh, that's
has
more
not
money.
fallen
Yep, that's
equally on all
definitely more money.
Americans,
That's
and those
definitely more
least
money.
able to shoulder the burden have been hardest hit.
Okay.
In
this
particular,
is more money
the
too.
high level of joblessness has been
That's
especially
more
severe
money.
for lower
More money
wage
for you,
workers,
Max.
Hey, more money for you.
for women,
More money. More money from Jay.
the econ-
From Jay. From Jay. From Jay.
So, you know, that's all they ever hear, right, is more money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at the headlines where, like, we might have a Finnish sort of situation on your hand, where when some people hear, okay, we're going to print more money, like Jamie Dimon hears that, and he's like, hey, I'll meet you for lunch.
Yeah.
That's what he heard Jerome Powell saying.
Right.
But the vast majority of people hear Jerome Powell say, I'll kill you for lunch. Because
Well, the point being that no matter what anybody says in the central banking system, it always means the exact same thing. It always means print more money. So it could be like CPI's this way, the labor market this way, markets are doing this, or we think interest rates are doing that. It doesn't matter what comes out of their mouth. It always means the exact same thing. We're going to print more money. That's the only thing they know how to do. That's the only thing they can do. And they couch it in different phrases and different ways. And it's all a synonym, though. It's all the exact same thing. It's like, because that's the only thing they can do at this point. You cannot taper a Ponzi scheme. There's never going to, they say, we're going to at one point downsize the balance sheet. And that's not true, but that's just code for we're going to print more money.
Yeah, and they print more money. They do print more money, but they look at different headlines from you and I, and they speak different from you and I. And so let's look at all the economic data that came out in the United States just this past week. And why we orange pill? Because we uniquely can hear both interpretations. We understand that they're saying, I'll meet you for lunch and I'll kill you for lunch. It's the same thing because there is no free lunch, but somebody's got to be eaten, right? The net worth of American households and nonprofit organizations jumped 6.8% in the second quarter from the first to 118.96 trillion. Sounds good, right? Net worth, household wealth, up 6.8% in one quarter. Like unbelievable, right? Well, also out, 46% of Americans say they are having serious financial problems amid the pandemic, a new NPR poll finds. Nearly 1 out of 3 respondents had used up all or most of their savings, and they mentioned that 1 in 6 is actually having a hard time feeding themselves.
Right. That's because the first set of numbers and that first headline is horribly misleading, right? It's that story about, Jeff Bezos walks into a bar and suddenly the average wealth of everyone in that bar is $100 million. That's the average wealth in the bar now because Jeff Bezos is in the bar. But that doesn't mean that the people in the bar are actually starving to death.
Yeah, and that's the two headlines. I'm explaining the economic chaos. That's why nobody, like hundreds of years later, Finnish people are still not meeting. All they need to do is address this problem with their language. That, if they rectify that, maybe they'll become a more friendly, open, society that meets for lunch.
Right. Maybe it has to do with this word meat, because in one case it's meat, I'm eating you. In the other case it's I'm meeting you, right? They are words that sound the same but mean something different. So they need a different word for the phrase, I'm going to meet you for lunch. They should say like,
Oh, you came close.
That should mean I'm meeting you for lunch, not can I kill you for lunch?
When my family moved from New York City to out remote Connecticut when I was like almost 5 years old. And suddenly I met my great grandmother, and, she was from Finland, and we would, she babysat me all the time for the whole summer, essentially. And I could still see myself as a 5-year-old looking up at her, and she sat there with a bottle of Finlandia vodka and playing Solitude. Like, I didn't know how stereotypical that was, like, stay away from me. But I could see her talking to me, and I think she was speaking Finnish, and she just called me Big Mouth and Chattering Bird. Those were my nicknames. But this is like the Finnish life. Like, I could see this, like I was like that deer that we talked about staring, like, who is this woman and why is she speaking this strange language to me?
Well, but chattering bird in Finnish, there's a word for that.
Papagaya.
Oh, papagaya. That's right. Papagaya.
So let's do some more reaction videos. So we're going to react to our friend, Mitch Feierstein, who sent us some videos from Manhattan.
Good morning. It's one of the chilliest days in autumn here in
That's
New York
Mitch
City's
Feierstein.
Grand Central Station, the largest passenger
Grand
rail
Central.
station in America. Looks like the only thing that's missing in this train station is the passengers. Wonder why they're not here.
I wonder, Mitch.
As you can see behind me, very, very few people are
Is he
here.
going to get
during
mugged
peak
right now?
rush
that
hour.
would add a
That's
kind
a
of a
very,
nice,
very bad sign
point to it.
for
He should
the
be like
commercial real
that,
estate markets
you know, that ramen
and
noodle guy
economic
and be
V-shaped
eating a
recovery that
slice
we're
of
being
pizza or
promised.
something.
Yeah, you need like Pizza
not
Rat
true.
and have a slice of pizza hanging out of your mouth
We'll
while
take a
you're
look
scurrying
around and
across
see
Grand
if we
Central
can find
Station. That would be
people anywhere
so
in
New York.
He ruined that.
Here we are out on Lexington Avenue.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
is he in the middle of the road?
Doesn't
This is
seem
like
there's
Abbey
very
Road,
much
but for New
traffic
York.
here for rush hour. Let's continue to. Good morning. Here we are
Good
outside
morning
on
again.
Lexington
I'm having
Avenue.
deja
Doesn't
vu.
seem
Didn't he
like
just
there's
say
a lot
good
of
morning?
traffic here during rush hour. Welcome to Bill de Blasio's new normal in Manhattan. Here we have an eatery, a Japanese
Eatery?
restaurant, one of the best in the
Looks
city.
like he's been spending
You
too
can
much
tell
time
that
in
nobody's
London.
here yet.
Yeah,
'cause
what's
it's a
he
little bit
talking
too
about
early. But
eateries
look at
for? Is
size
that the
of
name of the
box
restaurant, or did he just use
container
the word
that
eatery
people get
instead
to
of
sit
restaurant?
in the
He's sounding so
sidewalk and
British.
breathe
Well,
exhaustively
he spent so
when they
much
come
time
here
in London,
to
old
have
boy.
a dinner or lunch.
Nice
Terrible.
tie,
Terrible.
though. He's always got the nice ties. Hermes ties.
Rush hour in front of the United Nations during UN week. Normally, this would be so bustling with people you wouldn't be able to get here through the security, but because of COVID,
I
seems
feel like I'm
there's
watching
quite
Larry
a
David,
slowdown
as if
for the
he
city
never
that
left
never
New York.
sleeps.
Yeah,
this
it's
looks
just
like a
like very
city that
Larry
hasn't
David,
woken
isn't it?
up yet.
Complain.
Oh my God.
Mitch, your videos from the streets, the mean streets of New York, were amazing. It looks like it's back to the 70s, but not really.
Well, it is kind of back to the 70s. You know, when I grew up here, but the crime is worse now. So, I mean, it's a reflection of just complete lawlessness throughout. It's the police obviously have been defunded. So even if you wanted to, you know, the politicians said defund the police. If you don't defund the police, so they've taken away what, $500 million from their budget. And so the police aren't motivated to do anything. So the crime has skyrocketed here in Manhattan. It's very dangerous to walk around here.
Is this a Larry David kind of, it's really dangerous? Oh my God. Because I remember a little bit of the 70s and 80s. I'm sure Max remembers the 3,000 murdered a year.
Well, so Mitch, you're saying that the streets are empty, and I saw the videos, and it looks really eerie for sure. You know, only very occasionally are the streets that empty. Yeah. So that's freaky. That's very freaky to have that day after day. So the crime, where's the crime coming from? I've read some stories about it. So you have a lot more burglaries, I guess, now. So people on the Upper East Side are complaining. So there's home invasions, there's burglaries. Is there a lot of crime with guns and knives, or is it mostly burglaries and muggings?
Well, I think you have the whole gambit that you run. I mean, the murder rate's up close to 300%. Look, I was walking down the street and I was accosted. People tried to take my money. So, you know, I've been in the city my entire life. And when I was little and I went in the wrong neighborhood, not little, but younger, still the same size.
Are you like this big or something?
Yeah, I was like one of those
Mini
Mother
Mitch.
Strike the kids. Oh my God. So, yeah, I mean, I used to get beat up regularly. So I can tell when something bad is about to happen. And when there are four guys that ask you for money and there's two in front of you and two behind you in the middle of the day in Midtown and there's nobody around, something bad's going to happen. So,
all right, so you're getting,
Obviously.
mugged basically. There's a lot of muggings. You could get mugged any day now, broad daylight. That's the new normal.
It's the new normal. But I ran into the middle of the street because I'd rather take my chances getting hit by a car, or if one of them had a weapon, or getting bashed in the skull. So I didn't get hit by a car, but a couple of cars jammed the brakes on and the guys didn't chase me into the road. So I just took off.
So
went to my meeting.
That, here on Orange Pill, one pill makes you smaller and one pill makes you large. So you used to be a small person back in the 70s and 80s walking around. Maybe that's why, or maybe you're small now and it feels like, how when you're tiny, everything feels bigger, but maybe the problem feels bigger because, to me, it seems like when I go to New York, and I haven't been there in 6 months, but that it feels very sort of Disney compared to how it used to be. Like there was a kind of a niceness about all the freaks and crazy people in New York City in the 70s and 80s. Like it's kind of lost that touch, and maybe you need some more bodies float. I mean, I remember Max's face, like he hadn't been back to New York City in 15, 20 years, and then seeing some people jet ski down the East River. Like, how many corpses
It's like there are a lot of dead bodies in there. Why would you have a jet ski?
Yeah, it's nuts now, though. But, look, I the police told me not to go out. I've got friends who work for the city, and they said, don't go out here at night. And I I said, okay, great. But 11 o'clock at night, 4 nights ago, I needed some ice cream bad. I was having an ice cream emergency. So what does one do? You walk to, of course, the CVS or the Duane Reade or whatever it is, because they're open 24 hours and they sell ice cream. I walked in and the ice cream cabinet had locks across it. I mean, have you ever gone in somewhere and it said, please ring the bell? I hit the bell and some guy comes like 5 minutes later. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. You're locking up your ice cream? Are things that bad? He goes, oh, yes. They steal the ice cream regularly. They come and clean it out. I said, but isn't there anybody that sees it happen? He goes, no, we don't see it. And I said to him, I said, but the beer and the wine doesn't seem to be locked up. Wouldn't they steal that first? He goes, no, they steal the ice cream. I don't get it. Well,
that is definitely old school where they had the plexiglass everywhere at the bodega or at the grocery store. This was before you had big chains like CVS coming in there. And, of course, taxi drivers put up that plexiglass during the 70s and 80s because of all the muggings that were going on. The subway system we remember in the 70s as being all graffiti, all dilapidated, crimes, boom boxes. Have you been down in the subway at all? Has it gone back to this state?
I did try to take the subway during the day because I had a meeting down on Wall Street and it was empty. I mean, I took it and there was nobody on it. So, I mean, it was fairly safe, fairly quick, and painless, but nobody was on it. No graffiti. It wasn't.
So going back to the 1970s, but Tompkins Square Park in the East Village, it became an encampment. People were living there for months on end, became a no-go zone for police. And it was a open drug bazaar. Have we gotten to that stage?
I don't think there's anybody here to participate in that. I think that, if you look around on the street, it's like filled with homeless people, and the people Bill de Blasio decided to let out of the prisons. So, I mean, that's the problem. I think he's let thousands of people out because of COVID. So them who did coughing around, or they're out on the streets looking for somebody to rip off because they're convicted felons now that have been given a chance to come and repopulate the city. That's why most of the people who live in Manhattan have left. I mean, most of the people who are here are gone. I went into my dry cleaner and he told me the business is down 70%. 70%. He goes, this is bad. And if you look, a lot of the shops are closed and they're never coming back. So if you think about, that little video of Grand Central that I sent you and all the new buildings that have gone up and the real estate loans that are astronomical. There's so much space and people from home now or do Zoom calls. They better get those printing presses on high gear. I'm telling you, because this is not.
We kind of lost you a few times there, but I think everybody kind of gets the gist of it. But before we wrap this up, Mitch, I want to ask you one thing, of course, that we saw in the 70s is, as Max mentioned, Taxi Driver, the famous film, and the Times Square, was the Deuce. That was like the home of open air prostitution and drug dealing and all sorts of stuff like that. But we also had one thing we're missing in our economy these days is the serial killer. I think most serial killers now, they used to be like in their 30s and 40s. Most of them do school shootings and mass shootings at 20 now. I think those same guys might have, become serial killers back in the day. Do you think we might see the return of the serial killer to Manhattan? Because that's missing. And we lost him.
Well, I don't know. It says my internet is unstable. Did you get me back? You have me?
Yeah, I see you. You're there.
Oh no.
It's very unstable. You're a very stable genius, though, Mitch. What do you think about the serial killer missing from Manhattan? Are they going to return?
I think that they are, but I think they've been reincarnated. I think there were 86 people arrested in Times Square last weekend with their peaceful protests, I guess, that turned not so peaceful. So
you're saying that serial killers have now become peaceful protesters?
They've
Wow.
They've joined Antifa.
Oh my God.
What about the squeegee man? Back in the 70s, everywhere you'd go, there's guys with squeegees do your windshield for $1. Have you seen that come back yet?
No, I haven't seen the squeegee men come back yet because I think people are too afraid with COVID to open their windows. I mean, everybody here, this is the other thing. Everybody here is petrified, and they've become a bunch of mask Nazis. It's like, hey, you don't have a mask on? What? You know, and they'll start screaming in the streets if they catch people with no mask on. It's like, oh my God, this is like the end of the world. Even if you're drinking some substance while walking down the street, you must have a mask on. So they've got to figure out how to make the masks more permeable.
Well, Mitch, I'm not totally convinced that you're not an alternative universe Larry David who stayed in New York and didn't go to Beverly Hills. There's a similarity between the two of you. I can imagine Larry David also getting in trouble with the mask Nazis, as you say.
There you go. Well, I hope not. And look, I hope the city turns around, but I don't see it happening, especially not with Mayor de Blasio in office. I mean, everybody's complaining about him. I don't think he's got one ally left in New York. I think he's alienated everybody, but I don't know if that's his plan. But I think you have to give New York City a miss from now on. Until
I saw a statistic, something like 15,000 empty apartments. Is that number going to go up?
Oh, absolutely. There's plenty of stock out there that's empty. And, you know, who wants to rent a 2-bedroom apartment for $9,000 job that you're going to have all the creature comforts and be able to have your meetings on Zoom? And no business is really transacted here. So all of the apartments are pretty much cleared out. So I think they're going to have a problem, especially with the massive amount of new builds that they've put up here that I've been railing about for years. There's not enough revenues to support that. And the tax revenues in the city have absolutely collapsed and they've cratered. So I don't know, we're going to have an economic reset, or the Planet Ponzi scheme has finally exploded, but we're surviving on the fumes of Jerome Powell's quantitative easing infinity. But remember, you can never, ever taper a Ponzi scheme.
And that's a good place to end. And of course, do not worry about Manhattan real estate, because in the 70s when they went bankrupt, not only did Donald Trump come to the rescue because the federal government said, what was the famous thing they said to Ford, said to Manhattan? Drop dead. Well, don't worry, Jerome Powell's got your back, and he's going to be buying up all those apartments in Manhattan, and it's going to be fine, because you can't taper a Ponzi. You can't taper a Ponzi. Come on, dance! Dance, Mitch!
The love boat's on a Ponzi scheme. Everybody's getting rich.
Ponzi scheme.
The boat's floating on Powell's ocean of money, and we're all wearing leis, and all-you-can-eat buffet at the Fiat Ponzi scheme, Mitch.
Yeah, all you can eat at the Warren buffet.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for joining us on Orange Pill.
Thanks for having me, guys, and be well, and I'll see you from London next time.
Yeah, right. That'll ever happen. Is that the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme music? It sounds like Barnum and Bailey's Circus on crack.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know why, but every time we meet Mitch or whatever, it is like if, say, we go to dinner with him in Manhattan, it's like going to dinner with Larry David. Like, chaos ensues, right? Because there's always something that's wrong and has to get sent back.
He's totally chaotic. Every time you're with him, suddenly the whole place erupts in mad chaos, chaotic scenes for sure.
Well, actually, I've got a New York City headline, and it does factor into this video, this viral video that we saw you of Max and Stacy, the twinning couple, responding and reacting to Jerome Powell's speech this past week. Well, there's, the whole money printer go brrr. The fact is you can't taper a Ponzi. But what's happened over the past few weeks and months is Jerome Powell has been trying to psych everybody out, right? So in the spring, like April, May, they said they were going to buy all these junk bonds. And what happened? Junk bonds soared, right? Like people went ballistic, piling in ordinary Robin Hooders, trying to buy junk bonds because they thought they were going to be like the hedge funds and front run the Fed. But no real hedge funds or private equity who have, a private line to Jerome Powell did it because they knew Jerome Powell was going to step away from the market, and he did. But also we see that, the heart of the financial center of America, when they're just being sprayed with money and no real economic activity, we see just a total collapse happening in the real estate markets in America. And that's going to be, I guarantee you, within 6 to 9 months, the taxpayer is going to start bailing out all of these REITs. This chart shows the number of turnstile entries, seated dining reservations, and how a popular New York City REIT is performing is, as far as I can tell, a darn good proxy of where New York City is heading. So, that could, we could just be mocking our friend Mitch Feierstein, who might, after he sees our reaction, not be our friend anymore. But the fact is, he could be right, because this is a collapse in all those, no activity on the New York subway, no activity at the restaurants, and and the REITs are collapsing.
This confirms what Mitch was reporting on his man on the street. Journalism, citizen journalist Mitch. This confirms what he was saying. Turnstile entries, right. This is a REIT right now? Am I looking at this?
Yeah, the three lines there, and it's REIT, turnstile entries, and food. People sitting down for reservations at restaurants.
Right, the 10-day moving average. So it's up off the bottom, but it's still kind of scuttling around the bottom there. So you can't sustain the economy. There's no V shape there. There's no V shape. It's an L. It's an L shape, and it's kind of an L heading heading slightly with a positive angular bias. But it's more L than anything else, and L is for losing.
Well, yeah, and part of the problem is, you have the pandemic and the shutdown, which is restricting movement of humans around the earth. But you have things like, this story out this past week with the FinCEN leaks. And, New York City is one of the prime locations to launder your money, right? So now if FinCEN has to pretend to actually look at these SARs, what are the suspicious activity reports that they have to file. All bankers do it, and they just, to avoid any them getting fines or in trouble. So what they do is they flood, like with all this paper money all over the place, they flood the FinCEN, which is part of the Treasury, the regulators looking at money laundering. They flood them with these SARs. So they're looking at these suspicious activity reports, and there's tens of millions sent to the U.S. Treasury. And of course, what do? They're flooded with all of this money, these paper reports, and nobody looks at them. It's just this vast, Kafkaesque bureaucracy, because the banks just flood them. $10,000, that number was set, by the way, back in the 80s. So, it's not that much money. And by the way, money launderers know you're doing that, right? So they instead buy Manhattan real estate or something like that. So we've had this situation now where the Treasury and the regulators are overloaded with these pointless reports that just financially survey ordinary citizens and small business people and suppress commerce. They raise the cost of any commerce.
Right, it's more bureaucracy, right? So bureaucracy gets in the way of commerce, and it doesn't help anybody really stop the money laundering. Well, according to the FinCEN report, no. The people who were now caught laundering and terrorist funding and the trillions, that didn't stop them whatsoever.
Yeah, well, partly because what happens, if you have $5 billion that you've looted from an Eastern European nation, right? What happens? Okay, you go to your bank, one of these big major banks, who, by the way, helped write the money laundering laws. So their lawyers can tell you exactly, for a fee, a cut of this $5 billion. We'll take $1 billion of your $5 billion and we'll launder it for you. And that's a perfectly fine vig to pay, right? Anybody who wants to steal $5 billion, they're happy to give $1 billion of it over to somebody if they get away with $4 billion.
Right.
So these banks wrote the laws, and they know exactly what they left out for their own clients.
Right. So it's regulatory capture, and it's gaming of the system. And there's a lot of humans involved. And as I've explained on Wall Street before, the people who are responsible for regulation in the various offices are open to bribes. And that's true in every single layer of the financial stack that governs the American economy.
Yep. And JP Morgan, by the way, got away with it again, right? They paid a $1 billion fine. Again, these juxtapositions of the headlines of saying like, I'll meet you for lunch. I'll kill you for lunch. Like, you know, these are two dramatically different statements. A lot of people are reading the headline saying, wow, JP Morgan, they're, you know, step up kind of guys. They gave $1 billion to the Treasury in a fine for rigging the gold markets. Well, nobody's giving us any context at all. Like, how much did they steal? Like, is this that situation I just told you where, you know, if you're an oligarch who stole $5 billion, you could, if you give $1 billion to the banks, you can take the other $4 billion. This is the same thing. It's like, well, you know, if we're going to have to pay a fine for that thing, like here they're saying like it could be 15 billion, it could be 20 billion, it could be who knows how many billions. And we're supposed to applaud like, thank you so much for giving us a billion of the 20 billion you stole from us. That's really kind of you.
Right. And, you know, you can look at the numbers and discern a lot because, of course, JP Morgan is a bank and their primary business, the inputs and the outputs of their business are not a mystery, really. They make loans and they charge interest on those loans and then they report those as gross earnings and then they deduct the expenses, et cetera. And based on just looking at the gross numbers and what they reported as earnings, there's many, many, many billions missing. So that $1 billion fine would be, the way I looked at the number, just a cursory examination, there's a 22 billion missing. So that they're paying 4% back of the 22 billion they stole. And that's a great business to be in. If you could have to give back 4% of every dollar you stole, you too could make $1 billion.
Well, speaking of, you know, money, we have a good way to like, instead of having, you know, this whole world of where they live, where they always get to meet the Fed for lunch, where everybody else gets killed by the Fed for lunch, for enjoyment, for their amusement, for the lunch that, you know, we give the free lunch to Jamie Dimon. We're going to turn to an ad from our sponsor, who are some good guys. They recycle and the goodness of Bitcoin, of money, of the sun, of solar money, of all the things that are positive in this world that bring life and goodness.
Sun Exchange is the world's first peer-to-peer solar leasing platform. Earn Bitcoin solar powering communities in Africa and be part of the new world economy. Visit thesunexchange.com/orange pill and start monetizing sunshine today.
Okay, and now that, by the way, this week is over because, you know, we've had this whole magical crypto conference, so we were kind of busy this week prepping for that and doing some other stuff and microdosing orange pill, which everybody is like super excited about. I don't know why, but they really, the live stream gets so much more views, and I'm not sure if it's like that whole Spotify situation. I don't know if you've heard of what's happening with Spotify.
It's a stream.
It doesn't go up. It doesn't work up.
It does work up. I ran out of ammo. I ran out of J Powell bucks.
J Powell bucks. Here's one.
This is what happens to our microdosing. Whoa, baby. Whoa, whoa, whoa. They love it. They love it. They love the fountain of content that we are.
Yes. Yeah, the fountain of content. Well, you know, so where was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, you know, the thing is, like, this upcoming week, I want to do the whole Zoom call where we all talk to each other. You know, there's several hundred people, several hundred nationalities and languages spoken in the Telegram group, the Orange Pill Pod Telegram group. And I want to read one that, you know, this is what really makes me happy about Kaiser Report, especially, is that, you know, the English language press, there's a whole plethora of options. Like you could get right, left, libertarian, Keynesian, MMTers, like wherever you want. Like you could find a lot of great content. And in the Bitcoin space as well, there's like so many amazing podcasts now and content creators. But in the Spanish speaking language, like the Spanish language part of the world, there's like a shortage essentially. And our show, Kaiser Report, gets dubbed into Spanish. And I really believe like this has helped expand the whole universe of Bitcoiners, like a fair distribution of Bitcoin. So many people in the Spanish speaking in Latin America heard about Bitcoin, below $1,000 they were already hearing. I don't know when we first started being dubbed into Spanish, but it was a long time ago. And that audience is so huge now. But there was this one guy who wrote in our Telegram group. He said, I asked him, he mentioned that he was from Cuba. And I said, how are things in Cuba for you? Is it difficult to get your hands on Bitcoin? He said, you don't know how happy I am to have that you noticed. The whole family here in the house was happy because I spent the day talking about you two. From my 5-year-old son sees it with me. Says, get all the Satoshis you can. Ha, ha, ha. Thank you very much. In this country, for many, you are heroes. They see you on YouTube or RT. So,
wow.
That's good, right?
That's some free mojitos for us if we ever make it to Havana.
Yeah, I want to make it to Havana. And, but speaking of like, here's, in some regards, Cuba's done well for itself. Despite all these sanctions, sanctions often crush most economies, whether it's Iran or Venezuela, and causes hyperinflation, helps lead them down the road of hyperinflation. Cuba's done pretty well in terms of like their medical innovation, especially like the amount of drugs and pharmaceutical sort of stuff they've invented because they were cut off from the rest of the world is pretty amazing. That's kind of honey badger of them. But, it is still kind of one of the last bastions of old school communism, right? Like China and Vietnam are still communist, but
Castro, like Ho Chi Minh, went to America for help first, and then America declined to give them help, and they ended up going to communist countries who helped them out.
Yeah.
And that's we had a chance to be more brotherly and helpful, but we declined. So that set up the Cold War. But, Bitcoin makes people more who they are. So Bitcoin in Cuba makes Cubans more Cuban. Bitcoin in America makes Americans more America. Bitcoin in Finland makes Finnish people more Finnish people like. Finnish. And,
why do you laugh when you say that?
Because it brings out the true self of who you are. Like Alakanani is saying, she's in Botswana, and she said it's the currency of love. Love has the ability to transform. Hate is the ability to stay fixed in the same way of thinking forever. Only love can transform, and Bitcoin is love. Fiat money is hate.
Well, let's go to our interview with Alakanani from the Satoshi Center in Botswana. It's a good time to go. All right, and now it's time to go to Botswana, home of the honey badger, home of all humans, some scientists actually say. And the greatest human I know personally is there, Alakanani, a.k.a. Bitcoin Lady. Alakanani, welcome to Orange Phil.
Hi. Hi, Cece. Hi, Max.
Hi. Hey, this is great. Great to see you again. And so much to talk about. Where do you want to start?
Max, I want to ask Alakanani, you know what? I listened to an interview with you with Anita Posch, and you ended it by saying Bitcoin is love. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean Bitcoin is love?
Yeah, because of my experience since I've been doing this Bitcoin education and everything, I've seen how people who are in the Bitcoin space react towards one another. There is no division. There is no color. There is no rich. There is no poor. All I have seen so far is love. So I've seen how people love me, how people respond towards me, how people respond to other people also. And I have come to the conclusion that Bitcoin is the currency of love. When I was growing up, it was money, it was pula, dollar. I haven't seen people, coming together because of a dollar or because of our Botswana currency or anything. But I've seen people coming together because of Bitcoin. So for me, Bitcoin is the currency of love.
Yeah, that's a really good way to describe it. And it really touched me when you said that on that interview with Anita. Tell everybody in the audience, like how long you've been in Bitcoin and how you first got started in it and how you feel. Do you feel like do you feel almost more like a Bitcoiner than a Botswanan? Like, do you feel like that's more your community and you feel at home wherever you are in the world with a Bitcoiner?
I think I've been in about how many years? Is it 7 or so years? I think so. Yeah, because I've been active since 2013, but I came up Bitcoin in 2012. So I feel definitely at home when I'm doing Bitcoin and I'm educating people. So I have a lot of confidence. Yeah, if you had known me way before I was in the Bitcoin space, I was this very timid person. I was very afraid. I wasn't sure of myself. I didn't have confidence. But since I've been part of the space, I've seen myself developing. I've seen myself growing, and I've seen myself developing confidence, being able to speak to people easily and freely, and have a better self-esteem, like as compared to when I was still a teacher, maybe at school, or when I was still at school. So Bitcoin makes me feel at home. It's the community makes me feel at home, and they have made me to grow. They've made me to develop into a better person. So yes, definitely, I feel at home in the space. Feel at home. Yeah.
Yeah, we keep hearing more and more about how Bitcoin is really spreading all over Africa, and we hear that in Nigeria, 30% of the population is now using Bitcoin on a daily basis. And of course, you're in Botswana, and there's a lot happening at the Satoshi Center that you run there. What is it? Can you give us an idea of what's happening in Africa with Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people in Africa, they found Bitcoin, number one, to be a safe haven for them, and for money. It's better when you have crypto than having local currency, because you're not sure what's happening tomorrow. Because, money, especially in Africa, to just one day wake up in the morning, it's become valueless. Like what the issue of Zimbabwe, we've seen in Zimbabwe happening, where you sleep a billionaire and then you wake up in the morning, you've got nothing. So a lot of people have found Bitcoin to be some sort of safe haven for them, like some kind of store value for them. One moment you think you are in a better position in your country, and then the next morning things have changed. So for us, Bitcoin, it's very safe. The more you live in Africa, the more you hear a lot of stories that are happening, how some even people in government will misappropriate funds and all that. So it makes you feel safer to use crypto. I think that's why you see countries like Nigeria, South Africa, you see a lot of people are now adopting cryptocurrency because of the state of affairs in Africa. So you are better off when you are using Bitcoin than when you are using your local currency.
But also, of course, one thing with the way that it is used in Nigeria is, just like Botswana has a very well-run economy compared to many countries in Africa. It has a very good economy. There isn't a huge debt and stuff like that. But because the world trade is run on the US dollar, it is hard for you to get dollars to trade, but also to even access the banking system, the international banking system. So what happened in Nigeria is there's a huge market, they say, for used cars imported from Japan and other products imported from China, but it was hard for them to get the dollar to trade with them. So now we have a situation where they're finding it way easier to trade with people in Japan and China outside of the US dollar, because the US dollar prohibits many countries around the world and many individuals around the world from even participating. So if you want to engage in online commerce because you're in Botswana, you either have to try to get your hands on dollars, get access to the Visa and MasterCard credit card systems and PayPal, or Bitcoin, right? Those are your options. And Bitcoin makes you equal with everybody.
Yeah. We do, like in Nigeria, just like in Nigeria, we also buy secondhand cars from Japan. And companies like B Forward that sells used cars, you're able to pay them in crypto. You're able to pay them in Bitcoin. So it makes trading very easy. Even though you can use PayPal, unlike in other countries, but they're still not easy for you to use PayPal because you need also to have a bank account. You need to have all that. And what happens if you are not like employed in a what do you call it, a corporate world, or in a way that maybe you are self-employed? What happens to you and you don't have a bank account? It becomes difficult for you to use PayPal. And also you'll find that there's a lot of questions when it comes to how much money you can withdraw from your own bank account. For example, you have in Botswana, you are allowed to withdraw 10,000 pula in a day, which is like less than $1,000. So if you want more than that, you have to book. You have to go to the bank, tell them that I'm interested in withdrawing 15,000 or $1.5 from the bank. So if you don't book, you won't be able to withdraw that money from the bank account. So a lot of limitations as far as using your own money is concerned. You give them your money to the bank, and then when you're supposed to use it, it's no longer your money, it's the bank's money, and they give you all these red tapes of what you can do and what not withdraw. So it's about that also, and it's also about being able to send money and receiving money from outside or sending it outside. It becomes very easy when you are using Bitcoin, unlike when you are using the fiat. There's a lot of red tapes, a lot of bureaucracies, there are a lot of problems when if for example I was to receive $50,000, for example, if it goes through the bank, I'll have to account as to where this money is coming from. If I can't properly say, I might be maybe accused of money laundering or stuff like that. But with Bitcoin, there is that freedom of money, freedom of how you can use your money whenever and wherever, without having all these limitations that the bank or the government give to people.
Yeah, so Alakanani, I wanted to ask you about, in the United States and in other countries, people are very slow to understand what Bitcoin is, but it seems like people in Nigeria and in other countries of Africa, the learning curve is very fast. People just seem to get it quicker. Is that because? Why is that? Because it's such an obvious better system, I guess, and it just people are saying, oh, they immediately understand it's a better system, so they just start using it. And of course, in the United States and in Europe, people are still fearful because they are still part of the old system, right? So there's a natural kind of resistance. But it seems like in Nigeria and Botswana, people are just get it right away and they start using it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that for a lot of people in Africa, like I was saying, they found that it is the best alternative to what they have been given at the moment. When people have gone through a lot of, they've seen how the leaders, are abusing power, and how the people end up suffering. The people in the country end up suffering. If they find an alternative, they will actually listen to it. They will listen, and they will eventually want something that will help them to fight against the existing system. But they can have control over their finances, the better. So Bitcoin is giving them that. So if you look at if you compare the value of maybe the Nigerian naira to the dollar, it's the difference. That's huge. It shows like this man does not even have that much power, doesn't have value. So they're looking for something that is powerful, that will give them a better future. So for a lot of people, for a lot of us in Africa, it's about having a better future, unlike depending on people who won't give us a future. So for many, we're looking for a better future, and Bitcoin is that future for a lot of people in Africa, including Botswana, Nigeria, and anywhere where Bitcoin is being used.
Well, that makes you a lot more anti-fragile. Like many Americans don't realize that also, like all fiat currencies go to zero. So the US dollar will go to zero, but they trust their government, they trust the Federal Reserve Bank. But you're lucky in a way that you don't have to, like you have no reason to trust your government. It's kind of like, of course, the mascot for Bitcoin is Honey Badger, and Honey Badger is Botswana. Max and I were actually supposed to come to Botswana to find some honey badgers with you. We wanted to go on a journey looking for honey badgers, and the honey badger, the ruler of the savannah, the ruler of the jungle is of course the lion, but the honey badger has to figure a way to survive in the kingdom of the lion. And it does, right? And that's what you're like. That's what you're saying is like, you're the honey badger. Your rulers are going to be corrupt because they all are, whatever country in the world. We're seeing this everywhere. They're all corrupt and they all steal your money and they all destroy your economy. So you're the honey badger. You understand that.
Yeah, I understand that. It's a strong animal. They say even if you can beat it up, it might pretend that it's dead and then it comes out. You can beat it and hit it, and then it tries. I think for me and Bitcoin, Bitcoin, for example, they kept on saying Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin is dead. It never dies. They'll keep on saying dying. Like a honey badger, it never dies. It rises. So even I always say, like with me and the Satoshi Center, sometimes life beats us so hard, and it becomes so difficult, and I feel like, man, life has really swallowed me. And then I stand and I rise and I continue my journey of Bitcoin and doing what I'm doing. So I am like the honey badger, and Bitcoin is also like the honey badger.
Have you ever seen a honey badger?
No, because I'm living in town most of the time. I've never seen one, but my husband has seen one because he has grown up from the village, and it was easier for him to see one. So me, I'm always in town, so I just know how it behaves. Yeah, I just know that's how it behaves. And when we're young, we're also told never ever go and harass the honey badger if you meet it. in Setswana, we call it matwani. It's called matwani. So it holds your ankle and never let you go. If you can do something to it, so it will hold on to your ankle and never let go until it gets you. So we're always warned, whenever you see it, don't do anything to it because it's a very strong little animal. Yeah.
That describes Bitcoin. Like it hangs onto your ankle no matter what. It just like drags you down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to also ask, we were talking about how the leaders in different countries are corrupt and how people have lost trust in their leaders. And with Bitcoin, they have restores confidence. And we talk about having self-sovereignty so that people have their own sovereignty unto themselves. Now, in the case of Africa, of course, looking at this historically, the countries in Africa were put there from outside forces, from colonial forces. And so they don't necessarily, the borders are not the borders that would respect the history of Africa. So my question is, if Bitcoin is money that is trustworthy and takes the place of the current countries and the nation states, is there a feeling in Africa of overcoming the tragedy really of colonialism in a way, and the ability to break free of that?
So you're asking if there is a feeling for people in Africa to have some kind of independence through Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. For people on the ground, a lot of people have adopted Bitcoin in Africa. But as for the country government, I haven't really heard them talking about Bitcoin, but they're always talking about, a united Africa. They've been talking about it since forever, where they are trying to, remove this kind of boss, and trade become very easy among African countries. So I don't know how far this thing is because with governments and with leaders, what we know that they are very good at talking. So we don't know when they will implement all that, to make Africa, to have no borders, have a united Africa where people can be able to share resources and everything, and maybe have some kind of local currency, and a united currency that will make it free for people to trade among themselves. So we don't know if this thing can really happen. And if it happens, what we know that people are always thirsty for power. I do believe with crypto, with a fiat money, it's people end up keep on cheating. If there is someone who is in control. If say the whole Africa say want to have one currency for Africa, someone somewhere will want to be the one that is in control of that. To say, let the printing of money be happening in my country, or let this be happening in my country. So it doesn't solve anything. But if we are to adopt, if let's say African countries are Bitcoin, that would be the best, because this is a currency that does not have a central power. It doesn't need someone to be in control. It makes people to have own power, control. So as there is a central bank, which is what's going to happen. If Africa say we want to move borders than a bank, that bank will central. We won't be decentralized. It will be controlled by certain power. At the end of the day, as long as there is a person to trust, there is no trust. But rather trust in mathematics and trust in the code, which is Bitcoin. So for me, I think that's what will work. Otherwise, whatever that we are dreaming of, as long as there is a human being on it, I don't see it working.
Well, Alakanani, you sound like you've been orange pilled completely. When this pandemic is over, Max and I definitely want to come to Botswana, and we're going to film it for everybody in the world. We're going to go out there. I can't believe you haven't seen a honey badger yet, Matswane, and we're going to go find one. We're going to make sure we'll wrap our ankles in some sort of protective gear. I think Max has some hockey uniform stuff that would be good for that.
Oh, yeah.
We could go out there in hockey skates. But we'll go find some. We need to find some honey badgers, because there's a shortage of actual videos of Bitcoiners encountering honey badgers.
True.
And we're going to go do that. Also, I'm going to put in the video links on YouTube, also at our the RSS feed for our podcast, because of course people can contribute some Bitcoin to the Satoshi Center in Botswana, and it is put to good use. There's a load of fake Maxes and Stacys on Twitter DMing people and asking for Bitcoin, and apparently people send them Bitcoin. Don't send the fake Max Kaiser. If we ever say you should send some Bitcoin, we'll do it here, right out in the open. You'll see us face to face. We won't do secret little DMs to you send this So, Satoshi Center is open for some, donations, because it's put to good use, and it spreads the Bitcoin world and the orange pill around the world. So even $10, 2,000 people watching this, that's I think that would be 2 Bitcoin in total. I can't do math. I trust the math, but I don't understand it.
That's fine.
So thanks so much for being on Orange Pill.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Right. Honey badger. We need to go see the honey badger, Max.
Oh, definitely. I got my honey badger conversation set in my mind, so I can speak directly to the honey badger in their own language. Because I got to commune with them in nature in Botswana, be one with them. That's what I want.
Well, I did not know about this whole thing of them snatching onto your ankle. So I am going to look for some sort of, ankle guard. And I definitely want to go film some, because there's definitely a shortage, as I said, of content of Bitcoiners around honey badgers. And, I mentioned this, that all life came from there, all human life. Origin of modern humans traced to Botswana. This was from October of 2019. Scientists have pinpointed the homeland of all humans alive today to a region south of the Zambezi River. The area is now dominated by salt pans, but was once home to an enormous lake, which may have been our ancestral heartland 200,000 years ago. Our ancestors settled for about 70,000 years. They lived around this lake until the local climate changed, and they spread out in 3 groups. One went northeast, and that's where all humans outside of Africa are related to that group that went, crossed over to like, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, that area, and then went on. And then the one group went south, and one group went west. So, we're all related. We're all the same. And
yeah, Alakanani is godmama. She is basically our mother. The honey badger is our father. And our mother and father are all in Botswana. And they are both the progenitors of the human species, race, people, and Bitcoin.
She carries that confidence of like her genetic code has been around for 200,000 years. And she's just, like I said, my great grandmother watching me, like smiling with her bottle of Finlandia vodka. And Alakanani gives a sense of like deep inner faith.
I noticed that when I was traveling in Africa, in Cameroon, Gabon, Ivory Coast, that African people just had a different relationship with the planet, it seemingly, that they were really of the planet. And I felt very much abstract on the planet. Like I was walking on the planet, and the African people were just of the planet. And it's unless I was there and experiencing it, I would never have been able to have that thought.
Well, I think that's actually a good point to turn to our video from Abe Cambridge of the sunexchange.com/orange pill. And because he talks about this whole network effect, and rather than this command and control sort of centralized systems around the world of, obviously Bitcoin is the network effect rules that, and it makes it anti-fragile, and the honey badger. It is the honey badger of money because it is so distributed. Well, he's talking about energy and how solar power and the sort of grid, a decentralized grid, can make us all anti-fragile, but individuals as part of a group that keeps you anti-fragile. Like it's the network effect that makes us strong and sovereign as individuals.
Right. The network is as strong as the individuals are strong.
I've heard some people refer to going solar as going off grid. I want to make sure I correct this because going solar and going off grid are very different things. Now, to go off grid means you're cutting your cables to the main energy network. You're becoming entirely self-sufficient on your energy. You're becoming an energy hermit. Now, it's actually very difficult to achieve. It means if you have a surplus of energy, you've got nowhere to put it. And if you've got a shortfall of the energy that you require, you've got nowhere to draw it from. You are on your own. It's actually quite a selfish thing to do. What you want to be doing is being grid connected. The solar power plants being delivered through platforms like Sun Exchange are what are called grid-tied solar generators or embedded generators. That's generators embedded within the electricity grid. Now, these embedded generators work in combination with a centralized power station, such as a nuclear or a fossil fuel power station, to make up for any shortfalls in the solar energy production. These solar energy generators are the building blocks of a smart grid. So eventually you can actually do away with the central power stations, and the resilient and distributed embedded generator network can look after all energy requirements of everybody using that network. Now, you can compare this to the internet. In the olden days, there was maybe a handful of centralized computers in single locations, and that's all there was. Over the years, millions of computers were distributed all over the world, and then they got connected together. And that's where things got really interesting. And now we're entering a future where you don't even need central data centers, because the world of blockchain technology means we can both mine and stake data distributed where the network is being replicated in every node. Now, this is similar to the solar power network, where in the future we will not need central power stations because the distribution of the energy generation is all over the network. So now we have our millions, if not billions, of computers connected together to create the internet. Once we connect all our millions of solar and storage generators together, we will have created the Enernet, a worldwide energy network of reliable and clean energy that anybody can access any time of day.
Right. Well, I really liked all their graphics. I don't know who did that. That was so good. And you notice it's all orange, of course. They've been orange pilled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because orange pill, I mean, obviously most people who are watching this have already bought Bitcoin. They're part of Bitcoin. They're in the Orange Pill podcast group. And, you know, they understand this. But to maintain and keep this low time preference, to sustain the global economy and the network of Bitcoiners, you know, all these sort of things should be discussed and talked about. And this is part of our conversation of the, you know, of the Renaissance 2.0 of having knowledge, having experience, being open, being part of decentralized networks like that. How rather than communism, I mean, we were just talking about communism. Like, this is the opposite of that. It's a network, like you know, a free, fair market of all participants. Part of, like, the fact that there are so many Bitcoiners all around the world, distributed all around the world, makes you more secure. Your Bitcoin hodling more secure, and you're holding it makes everybody else more secure. So we all help each other. Like, that's what Satoshi and his game theory did for us.
Right. Communism tends to thrive on inefficiency, and Bitcoinism thrives on efficiency. And the thing about what Abe says, which I love, is that we're transitioning from a world of infinite money and limited energy to a world of infinite energy and limited money. And by infinite energy, he's referring to solar and the sun, which beads down thousands and thousands of percentage points more energy than we would ever need on planet Earth. And it's essentially free. So how do we capture it? Using solar, and then you get a piece of that in your Bitcoin wallet. And by expanding the grid, the entire globe, as Alakanani says, converts to the currency of love, Bitcoin, and we go from energy shortage to energy abundance, while simultaneously moving from fiat money chicanery to the hardest money ever known, and getting harder every day. As Michael Saylor says over there at MicroStrategy, Bitcoin gets harder, continuously getting harder.
And again, you know, that's even the solar story. And we should really have another interview with Abe. We need to get him back on. I want to get him back on and talking to Tyson Slocum, because I think, like, great things could happen. But the fact is, it's China being introduced to the world economy that caused the plunge in the price of solar panels, like absolute plunge. You know, the US controlled it from the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, like for 25, 30 years, and the price didn't really go down significantly. It slowly went down. But then China started producing solar panels, and it went like, you know, this, and whoo, like to hit the ground. And it's amazing. But the other thing I was thinking of, because we keep on talking about this Kardashev cycle, the Kardashev scale, and that's something I want to talk to Abe about, because the thing that's so fascinating is, you know, we have all these, we are very high tech advanced economies in some way, in that we have this system of these satellites and these telescopes and the probes being sent out. And it's remarkable, really, that so much of this is happening. We kind of have, like, we like the fact that so many people on Twitter are just focused on, like, banal sort of old people in diapers and the stories and the soap opera of that. When, you know, when you were a kid, like, you were all, as a community, sitting there watching man land on the moon in this crazy endeavor, and this little tiny tin can shot out into the moon. And, you know, that brought us together. But now, like, just as amazing stuff is happening, but everybody's like, yeah, whatever. Like, what's Jerry Nadler saying about whether or not we're going to have a civil war? But the fact is, I forgot to say. So, you know, we're out there looking for other civilizations, and the way we say we would recognize a civilization is the amount of energy they use. And yet we're always looking to reduce the energy and hide ourselves in a way.
Right. So maybe that's not the best way to find alien intelligence. Right. I think that there will be a reveal of some kind of extraterrestrial intelligence, and it goes back to the SETI project of the 1990s, the search for intelligence, for extraterrestrial intelligence, and the networking of the computers to sort through radio frequencies, which I maintain is how Satoshi slipped in to our computer system. And then in 2009, we have Bitcoin, which is a mirror of the SETI project in many ways.
Well, we'll ponder that over the week, and I guess we'll see you for microdose, and we'll meet you at the microdose. We won't kill you at the microdose.
All right, don't kill anybody at the microdose. We'll meet them at the microdose.
Yeah.
Right, because we're carnivores, Bitcoin carnivores, so we'll meet them. Then we'll cook them, and then we'll eat them.
Oh my God. Now nobody will show up.
Yeah, NVK, that guy NVK from Canada, he'll be there roasting everybody at the meetup, eating them, because he's a carnivore. He's that's what he is.
Yeah. So stay tuned, because we're also going to meet on Zoom this week. Go visit thesunexchange.com/orange pill. Make sure you are already registered so we all can sign on mass.
Oh, right. So register, because we're going to do the whole thing on live, right?
We're going to buy some solar cells, man. We're going to lease some solar cells.
I get it. Okay. Yeah. Everyone's got to register first.
All right.
Yeah. See ya. Orange Pill Podcast.